If this video appeared to you today, it's no coincidence. Your soul was asking for answers. You might think you clicked here out of curiosity, but the truth is, there's a greater reason guiding this encounter. In spirituality, nothing is coincidence. Everything that reaches you carries a sign, a message, a calling. And today, the calling is this: learn to see through anyone instantly, through the 21 spiritual truths of Osho. Have you ever noticed that you often look at someone and feel there's something unspoken? A look, a gesture, an energy that reveals more than words could ever convey. Osho said, "When you observe in silence, the world reveals itself." But have you ever tried this in your life? Have you ever allowed yourself to be deeply silent in front of someone and see beyond appearances? It is in this silence that secrets are revealed. People believe they can hide who they are behind social masks, forced smiles, or rehearsed speeches, but there's a level of perception, a spiritual clarity that goes far beyond the surface. And when you access this level, you no longer need explanations, because you see the essence, you see the truth that vibrates behind every word. This is the key that transforms the way you relate to the world. Perceiving without judging, witnessing without getting lost, seeing without effort. Think about it. How many times have you been deceived by beautiful words that later revealed dark intentions? How many times have you trusted someone who didn't deserve it, precisely because you couldn't read the signs? This happens because we've been educated to believe only in what is visible, tangible, and logical. But spirituality, and especially Osho's teachings, shows that life happens in the invisible. Energy never lies. A person's presence, their silence, their vibration, say more than any speech. And this is where the essential point comes in. You don't need supernatural gifts to see through people. You just need to awaken your inner gaze, cultivate awareness, and connect with the silence that reveals. When you observe without haste, without reacting, without trying to shape the other, something magical happens. The truth appears before you, naked, transparent. It's as if the layers peel back, and what was hidden becomes obvious. Osho reminds us that seeing the truth requires courage. Courage to look beyond illusions. Courage to accept what you discover. Courage to not let yourself be manipulated by other people's masks. Because when you awaken this perception, many relationships cease to make sense. You begin to see who is truly by your side out of love and who merely feeds off your energy. You begin to perceive the hidden games, the hidden intentions, the emotional triggers that try to control you. Imagine what your life would be like if, starting today, you could instantly tell who's speaking sincerely and who's just acting. Imagine being able to clearly sense when someone is at peace and when they're in conflict. Imagine never again being fooled by appearances, because your awareness has already surpassed that level. It's possible, and that's precisely what we'll explore here. Throughout this video, you will learn Osho's 21 spiritual truths that act as keys to unlocking this new perspective. They are simple yet powerful truths, capable of transforming the way you relate to people and the world. When you learn to apply them, you'll no longer need long explanations. Your gaze, your presence, your intuition will reveal everything. But before we dive into them, I want you to do a little exercise right now. Take a deep breath, in silence. Just observe. Maybe you're alone, maybe someone is nearby, it doesn't matter. Just feel the energy around you. This simple act is already a first step towards seeing beyond. Silence is the lens that clears your vision. Stay with me until the end, because I will reveal how to see beyond people's masks, how to access this level of consciousness Osho described. And when you understand these truths, your life will never be the same. The next step is before you. And since you're here with me, breathing this silence and making room to see beyond appearances, I want to ask you something very simple. Write in the comments the first time you realized someone wasn't exactly who they appeared to be. This story isn't just a sharing. It's also a way to consolidate your learning and inspire others who will come to this video with the same questions you once had. Your experience could be the key that awakens someone still trapped in illusions. And if this content is already making sense to you, if somehow you feel like you needed to hear this today, show that recognition right now. Leave your like. Also, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find more profound teachings from Osho and other sources of wisdom that will broaden your perspective and strengthen your spirit. It's a way to not miss the next chapters of this journey, because each video is a piece of the puzzle of your awakening. Now that you've connected with this energy and left your presence registered, we can continue this dive even deeper, because the spiritual truths that follow will expand your vision even further. Perhaps you've felt like almost no one truly sees you. It's as if you're always there, always willing to help, but at the end of the day, instead of feeling gratitude or reciprocity, what's left is a feeling of emptiness. You give and give and give, but it never seems to be enough. When you try to support, you end up being sucked dry. When you offer a shoulder, you realize you've become a repository for other people's pain. And when you seek a gesture in return, silence is the only answer. This invisible pain corrodes from within, because it's not clear like an open wound. It's silent, constant, like a drop that wears away stone over time. Osho said something profound. When you live only to please, you lose your witnessing status. And what does that mean? It means you cease to be a presence and become an object. You become that resource others turn to when they need energy, attention, or support, but you're not seen as a whole human being. And this is one of the greatest self-deceptions of modern life, believing that being always available is synonymous with love, when in fact it can be a disguised form of self-abandonment. Think about it. How many times have you answered messages in the middle of the night just to avoid disappointing someone? How many times have you said yes, even when everything inside you screamed no? How many times have you swallowed your exhaustion, your desire to retreat, just to maintain the image of a trustworthy person, a present friend, a son, a partner who never fails? Deep down, you know these moments accumulate, and each unfelt yes is a small betrayal of yourself. Osho would call this a loss of consciousness, because when you act on autopilot, when you react only to keep up appearances, you abandon your center. Spirituality shows us that there is no worse prison than living as a prisoner of other people's expectations. This prison is invisible, because no one imposes chains on it. It's made of guilt, fear of rejection, and the need for acceptance. You become predictable, and this predictability is precisely what turns you into so many people's emotional emergency button. Whenever someone needs to vent, they know who to turn to. You. But when you need it, when you feel the world weighs you down, how many are truly there for you? There's a word that sums up this experience: draining. It's the sensation of your vital energy draining through your hands without you even realizing it. And this is so subtle that many mistake it for kindness. Osho warned, kindness without awareness is just masked submission. You think you're helping, but deep down you're just erasing yourself. Limitless availability is self-abandonment. This phrase needs to resonate within you. It's not about shutting yourself off. It's not about failing to care for others. It's about remembering that if you abandon yourself, you lose the ability to witness what really happens. And when you don't witness, you don't see. You become blind to true intentions, to hidden games, to the manipulations hidden in the most subtle gestures. Perhaps you've experienced that strange feeling of emptiness after a conversation, as if you've given your all, but at the same time, you've lost an essential part of your strength. This emptiness doesn't come out of nowhere. It's the trace of self-abandonment. It's the sign that you're trading presence for approval. It's the price you pay when inner silence is replaced by the external noise of the need to please. Osho said that presence is a form of light, and this light cannot be offered if you are dimmed inside. You must learn to protect your energy, not as one who builds walls, but as one who cares for a sacred temple. Because that's what you are, a temple. Every time you forget yourself to become an extension of others, a crack opens in this temple. And the more you allow it, the harder it becomes to rebuild. Now reflect for a moment. How many times have you been used as that emergency button, that source of immediate energy to solve problems that weren't even yours? How many times have you found yourself in the role of solving everything while your life was put on hold, forgotten in the background? This is the invisible pain that almost no one names, but that many carry. It disguises itself as fatigue, as unwarranted irritation, as loneliness in the midst of a crowd. The path Osho proposes is radically simple. Return to your center. Don't accept being just an object in the lives of others. Recover the state of witness. When you place yourself in this place, you begin to clearly see who truly values your presence and who merely drains your energy. This is the first key to beginning to see through people. I want you to keep this phrase in your heart. Unlimited availability is self-abandonment. Write it in the comments so this truth stays with you and inspires those who come here. This will be our connection point to continue even deeper on this journey. Protecting your energy isn't selfishness, it's spiritual intelligence. This is one of the most liberating truths, yet at the same time, the most difficult to accept, because we've been raised to believe otherwise. From an early age, society conditions us to believe that saying no is a lack of love, that withdrawing is disinterest, that preserving oneself is selfishness. But Osho offers a completely different perspective. Preserving your energy is an act of profound awareness, because only those who are whole can truly offer something genuine to others. How many times have you felt guilty for simply needing silence? How many times have you wondered if you were being cold by wanting to be alone? This guilt is a collective trap, a mechanism that keeps you always available, always open, always ready to meet external needs, even when your inner self is already asking for rest. Osho said, "Silence is not absence, it is total presence." This simple teaching changes everything, because it shows us that withdrawal is not a lack of love, but an even higher form of presence. When you retreat to protect your energy, you're not withdrawing from the world, you're reconnecting with yourself. And when you return more conscious, more lucid, more whole. This is true presence. Absence is when you're beside someone but disconnected, empty, exhausted. It's being there in body, but not in soul. Total presence happens when you allow yourself silence, when you take care of yourself, when you recognize that your energy is sacred. This understanding frees you from guilt. And why is this so important? Because while guilt dominates, you can't set limits. You feel compelled to give yourself away, to exhaust yourself, to justify yourself, as if self-preservation were a crime. But when you understand that protecting your energy is spiritual intelligence, everything changes. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop explaining yourself for feeling. You stop justifying your need to withdraw. You begin to act with clarity, knowing that your inner life is as important as any external obligation. Osho reminds us that true awakening begins when we understand that we are not responsible for sustaining the entire world. Life doesn't require you to sacrifice yourself to the point of exhaustion. What life demands is awareness. And awareness includes recognizing when you are being drained. It includes realizing when you are pushing yourself away to please others. It includes having the courage to say no, even when the world expects your yes. And here lies a powerful turning point. Every time you choose to protect yourself, you are affirming your spiritual freedom. You are telling the universe that you prefer to live awake, rather than remain asleep in the chains of guilt. This act is silent, but it creates an immense transformation in your energy. You cease to be predictable, cease to be controlled, cease to be used as that emotional emergency button. You become a witness, and the witness is unbreakable. Understand how this connects to everything you've ever experienced. Perhaps you've often thought you needed to keep everyone close, even at the cost of your peace. Perhaps you believed that giving up on yourself was the only way to maintain relationships, friendships, and family ties. But now you're beginning to see that this path only leads to exhaustion, and it's at this moment that the true choice arises. Continue abandoning yourself, or start protecting yourself. Protecting your energy is, above all, an act of love. Love for yourself, but also true love for others, because no one can offer authentic presence if they are not whole. When you learn to care for your inner space, you begin to offer more real, deeper, and more conscious relationships. And it is at this point that it becomes impossible to continue living just to please. Love, to be true, must be born of freedom, never of obligation. And perhaps this is the greatest liberation you can experience, understanding that you don't need to carry the weight of guilt for protecting yourself. You're not cold, you're not selfish, you're not distant. You're conscious. You've realized that life only makes sense when there's a balance between giving and preserving, between being for the world and being for yourself. This is the kind of understanding that changes the way you look at every relationship. You begin to see when someone is trying to manipulate your energy, when someone is only trying to suck, when someone expects you to give up on yourself to support them, and in that moment, you no longer fall into their traps. You learn to observe in silence, not to react, not to justify yourself. You learn to be fully present even in retreat. Osho said that compassion without awareness becomes attachment, and awareness without compassion becomes hardness. Finding balance is the great challenge. Protecting your energy means finding this balance. It's knowing how to say yes when you feel the truth and knowing how to say no when your soul asks for silence. This is the highest gesture of spirituality. Now I want you to write in the comments a phrase that will mark this moment of liberation. I choose to protect my energy. This will be your declaration, your mantra, your commitment to yourself. Because from here on, we'll delve even deeper into the truths Osho left us, and you need to be fully prepared to absorb each of them. When you begin to awaken to this new awareness, something inevitable happens. Your life enters a true paradigm shift. Until now, you've probably lived believing you needed to always be available, always responding, always ready to react to what others expected of you. But the moment you decide to change this logic is the moment the masks begin to fall, because nothing reveals as much about a person as their reaction to your silence, to your limits, to your refusal to continue playing the same role. The first point is clear. People reveal who they are when you say no. While you agree, while you give in, while you're always ready to oblige, many maintain a friendly face, a sweet tone, and an appearance of closeness. But try saying no just once. A simple, firm, calm refusal is enough, and you'll see the transformation. Those who are truly by your side out of love, respect, and conscience will understand. They will embrace your limits. They will recognize your truth. But those who are only interested in what you could offer will quickly reveal their discomfort, anger, and emotional manipulation. It's in that moment that you see through it effortlessly. No is like a ray of light that cuts through the darkness and exposes what was hidden. The second point is even more powerful. Your silence disconcerts those who thrive on manipulating reactions. The manipulator needs your movement, your desperation, your rush to respond. They feed on your predictability, your need to justify, your inability to endure emptiness. But when you decide to remain silent, when you choose not to respond immediately, something within the game breaks. The manipulator is lost, because what they expected doesn't happen. The absence of your reaction dismantles the plot they were trying to build. Osho said that the conditioned mind loves patterns, and conscious silence dissolves those patterns. Have you ever noticed how silence can be more uncomfortable for others than 1,000 words? This is because silence cannot be manipulated. It is pure, unbreakable presence, and in its presence, every attempt at control loses its power. The third point is the heart of this shift. Conscious observation dissolves patterns. You don't need to confront. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove anything. Just observe. When you look at a situation without getting carried away, you see the cycle unfolding before you. You notice the triggers, the repeated movements, the rehearsed lines, the emotional games that previously went unnoticed. And in that moment, something profound happens. The illusion shatters. What once seemed inevitable now reveals itself as just a repeated, fragile, predictable pattern. Consciousness is the light that dispels the shadow. Osho always emphasized that the witness is free because they don't allow themselves to be trapped by the game. When you assume the posture of witness, you stop being a character in someone else's narrative and become the silent observer who perceives everything. That's where true strength lies. Not in reacting faster, not in responding better, but in not allowing yourself to be captured by the plot others try to write for you. When you stop reacting, the game breaks. You begin to see what has always been hidden. Think about how many times you've fallen into endless arguments that only existed because you felt compelled to respond. How many times have you let yourself get dragged into conversations that led nowhere, simply because you couldn't stand the silence? Now imagine if in those moments you had simply taken a deep breath and remained present without reacting. The outcome would have been different. The power of manipulation would have dissolved in the face of your calm. The other person would have revealed themselves completely, and you would have preserved yourself. This is the paradigm shift that radically changes the way you see people and life. It's not about learning new defense techniques, but about abandoning the game completely. Silence and conscious observation are like mirrors. They reflect back to the other person their own image. And in this reflection, everything that was hidden is revealed. The truth emerges not because you demand it, but because you witness it. Once you understand this, you'll never be the same again. You begin to perceive in every look, every gesture, every word, the intentions that previously went unnoticed. And the more you practice, the clearer this vision becomes. Silence becomes your greatest weapon, and conscious observation your guide. This is the beginning of true spiritual freedom, because you stop being a prisoner of other people's drama and begin to live from your center. Now I want you to write in the comments a phrase that will solidify this shift within you. My silence reveals the truth. This is your declaration, the anchor point that will strengthen your practice and inspire those who reach this point in our journey. By now you've realized how the simple act of saying no, withdrawing into silence and consciously observing, begins to break patterns and reveal truths that have always been before you. But to see through anyone instantly, as Osho taught, you need to go even deeper, cutting through the layers of ego, external noise and conditioning until you touch the essence. This is where Osho's 21 spiritual truths come in. Each one is like a key, and together they form a map of clarity that completely transforms the way you relate to the world. The first 7 truths speak of seeing beyond the ego. The ego is the mask we all wear. It presents itself as personality, as identity, as a social role, but deep down it's just a fragile construct created to survive in the world. Osho said that the ego is like a wall. It appears solid, but if you look closely, you'll see it's made of loose bricks. Seeing beyond the ego means recognizing that behind the rehearsed words, the titles, the gestures of power, there's always a hidden fragility. The first truth is realizing that every ego seeks approval, and this already reveals a lot about the person before you. The second is understanding that the ego always reacts, never creates. It's a conditioned reflex. The third is realizing that the ego needs to compare itself to exist. When you see someone trying to elevate themselves by putting others down, you're already facing an inflated ego. The fourth truth shows that the ego lives by appearance, not essence. The fifth reveals that the bigger the ego, the greater the fear hidden behind it. The sixth points out that the ego cannot tolerate silence because in silence, it dissolves. And the seventh truth is liberation. Seeing beyond the ego is seeing that the person is not the role they play, but something much greater that is still hidden behind the mask. From the 8th to the 14th truth, Osho leads us to the power of silence and non-reaction. Here we enter a more subtle territory, because it's not just about perceiving the other, but about using one's own energy consciously. The 8th truth is that silence is active, not passive. When you are silent, your presence expands like a field that touches everything around you. The 9th truth is that non-reaction disconcerts any attempt at manipulation because it breaks the pattern of cause and effect. The 10th is that silence is like a mirror. In it, the other sees themselves unfiltered. The 11th truth shows that when you don't react, you conserve energy, and this accumulated energy transforms into clarity. The 12th reveals that silence opens space for the other to reveal themselves, without you needing to pressure or question them. The 13th is that silence cuts the flow of lies, because lies need movement, they need agitation, and when they encounter emptiness, they dismantle themselves. And the 14th is that non-reaction does not mean weakness, but the highest level of spiritual power, because you rule yourself and are not ruled by the chaos of the external world. From truths 15 to 21, Osho takes us to the final point, consciousness as the key to seeing the essence of another. The 15th truth is that consciousness is light, and light doesn't need to fight darkness. It simply dispels it. The 16th is that consciousness perceives energy fields, not just words. When someone enters a space, their presence already communicates who they are before they even open their mouth. The 17th truth shows that consciousness reveals the buttons others try to push in you, the emotional triggers that act as shortcuts to manipulation. When you observe without identifying, these buttons stop working. The 18th is that consciousness allows you to see repetitive patterns as if they were rehearsed scripts, and from then on, you no longer fall for them. The 19th truth is that consciousness sees the essence, that which is beyond the body, beyond speech, beyond the character. The 20th is that consciousness liberates, because when you see the essence of another, you are no longer bound by illusions. And the 21st truth is the highest. When your consciousness is awakened, you see through everyone, but you also see through yourself, and realize there is nothing left to hide. These 21 truths may seem at first glance like philosophical concepts, but in practice, they are powerful spiritual tools. Each one is like a mirror that shows not only the other, but also reflects who you have been in the world. It is impossible to travel this path without transforming yourself, because with each revealed truth, you shed a layer of blindness and gain a new lens of clarity. That's why I want to propose that you anchor this learning now. Write in the comments the phrase, "My awareness is the key." This phrase is not just a statement, but a reminder to yourself that your strength lies not in reacting, arguing, or proving anything, but in remaining present, silent, aware, allowing the truth to appear before you effortlessly. After understanding these 21 spiritual truths, the time comes when theory and practice must meet. Because there's no point in simply listening, reflecting, and feeling that all this makes sense if you don't put it into action in your own life. Osho always emphasized that knowledge that isn't lived becomes a burden, something that takes up space in the mind, but doesn't generate real transformation. That's why I now want to propose a practical protocol, a simple and powerful exercise that can radically change the way you see the people around you. The challenge is this. For the next 24 hours, don't explain yourself. It's that simple. When someone comes with a request, a demand, an attempt to pressure you into giving in, simply respond, "I can't do it today." That's it. Don't add excuses. Don't try to soften the blow. Don't open the door to endless negotiations. Use only this short, direct, and silent phrase in its power. "I can't do it today." You'll notice something extraordinary happening in this process. Because while you spend energy explaining yourself, the other person continues to believe they can negotiate your presence, manipulate your time, and invade your space. The explanation is like a gap through which energy leaks. But when you close that gap and offer only a clear boundary, the other person's reaction becomes revealing. It's in that moment that people reveal their true selves. Some will respect it, perhaps even find it strange at first, but accept it. Others, however, will try to insist, will be bothered, will accuse you of selfishness, will try to evoke guilt. And that's exactly where the truth emerges, because those who respect your energy have the emotional and spiritual maturity to understand that every human being needs space. But those who react with demands show, without a mask, that they were only interested in using you as an inexhaustible source. This short exercise is like a lens that magnifies reality. By holding firm to a simple boundary, you not only protect your energy, but also begin to see the field of intentions around you. And here comes something fundamental. You don't need to argue. You don't need to fight. You don't need to raise your voice. The power lies precisely in the simplicity of the phrase, the silence that accompanies it, and the clarity with which you support your decision. Imagine yourself in an everyday situation. Someone asks you for a favor, and you're tired, your mind full, your heart asking for solitude. Instead of making excuses, you simply say, "I can't do it today," and you remain silent. This pause is disconcerting. This emptiness isn't a lack. It's total presence, as Osho said. It's a space that can't be manipulated. By practicing this, you'll realize how many relationships were sustained solely because you over-devoted yourself. You'll notice how many connections were actually forms of draining, disguised as friendship, love, or commitment. You'll clearly see who is bothered by your limits and who understands that respecting another's space is a basic act of awareness. This 24-hour challenge may seem small, but its effects are immense. It creates a force field around you, like an energetic bubble protecting your inner temple. And within this bubble, you begin to notice buttons that were previously easily pushed. With each unexplained moment, with each sustained silence, you gain clarity about yourself and others. Osho reminds us that there is no liberation without practice. It's not enough to intellectually understand that protecting your energy isn't selfish. You have to put it into action, feel the initial discomfort, overcome the guilt that tries to return, and sustain the new posture. That's where true awakening happens. Therefore, I want to propose that you try this protocol today, not tomorrow, not at another time. Put it into practice now, and then come back here and write in the comments a phrase that will be your spiritual anchor in this process. "I choose my peace." This simple statement is not just a phrase, it is the symbol of a profound decision to place your consciousness and your energy above guilt, above manipulation, above masks. By writing this, you not only share it with the community, but also reinforce within yourself that you are ready for this real change. When you learn to see through people, you discover you were never blind, just distracted. This is the true revelation. Clarity was always there, waiting for you to stop reacting and start observing. Osho reminds us that awareness is not something you need to achieve, but something you need to remember. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you for two simple things. First, subscribe to the channel, because each new piece of content is part of an ongoing series called The Spiritual Truths of Osho, and I want you to be part of this complete journey. Second, leave your like right now, because it shows that this topic resonated with you and helps this message reach more people who also need to wake up. And it doesn't stop there. The next video is already appearing on your screen. Click it and continue with me on this journey, because every step you take in this series is an essential part of your spiritual awakening.